Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Bala Bobo. There's quite a lot of conversation in Nigerian politics, and it all boils down to the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That is why on the show today, we'll be taking time to assess Nigeria, basically, on the Tinubu's watch. But we'll focus on two talking points: the diverse reactions to emergency rule in Rivers State and the so-called concern over the state of our democracy. Also, opposition coalition efforts to unseat President Tinubu in 2027 is in top gear. What's the latest with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's meeting on Tuesday? We will get to the bottom of that. Also, the conversation for today will extend to the Natasha versus Akpabio conversation, be to recall Senator Natasha and also alleged hearing bias as Senate dismisses petition waiting for the court's ruling over the matter filed by Senator Natasha Udwagan. Well, our guest today is not a stranger to the show. Akim Akintoye is an APC chieftain, a senior investment analyst, and also a political economist. Once again, I get to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a while. I've been trying to track you down, but thankfully, thank God who bears witness with me that you are here today.
I missed you and I missed our listeners.
I'm sure they do. So let's get straight to the conversation. We'll start off with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who has said Nigeria needs urgent restructuring to enable citizens to enjoy the benefits of democracy. Spoke on Tuesday in Yola at a coalition meeting attended by members of various political parties. And the presidential candidate in the 2023 election said things were not going in the right direction. Atiku adding that he will soon address national issues and clarify his political stance, urging supporters to remain calm and focused. So let's start with Atiku Abubakar. I mean, the reactions to, we'll still go to with that Emeka's 60th birthday anniversary that got a lot of people talking. So, I mean, members of the APC are people who pride themselves as progressives. I mean, that's a fact. The president is a key fighter for democratic efforts.
Exactly.
I mean, so we've seen this backlash. You know, the backlash started coming from that General Babangida's book launch, you know, with, you know, his comments. And the fact that the president was there was a big problem for a lot of people.
Wow.
And people are like, okay, this conversation about our democracy as a country, does it really make sense? Where is the accountability? Yes, he has said, oh, he takes full accountability, but lives were lost as a result of that particular coup. I mean, on our democratic efforts regarding the 1993 elections. And there you are with Rivers emergency rule. What is your reactions to these coalition efforts? And guess who is in charge? Your former chieftain, El Rufai. So I've been following this conversation, but unique to your own perspective, what's your take?
Well, you know, when you said a former chieftain, you know, well, to some people, he's a very rich quality person, and you give it to him, he did a lot while in government, both as FCT minister and the governor of Kaduna State. So that's to tell you that the progressives have a lot in their kitty in terms of quality leaders and all that. But the point is, sometimes quality leaders can make mistake or can take some missteps, you know, towards political misfortune. And it's unfortunate that El-Rufai could not stomach, you know, the patience that is needed in politics, you know, because the APC is a party that has a conglomerate of progressive, like you said, and people that have the idea to change the perspective of governance, like we used to have before, you know, where everybody, the government that were in power, PDP government that were in power before, were all about either the government of personality, sharing this, sharing that. But you see, whether anybody likes it or not, since APC took over right from Buhari, yes, there may be some, you know, mistake, you know, from the past administration, but largely you can see the government did much more better than when PDP was there.
So let's talk about this emergency rule. Do you think it's a mistake? The Nigerian Bar Association has
I don't
condemned it. Basically,
see.
every stakeholder in Nigerian politics has condemned the action of the president.
I always have an idea that either you're from River State or close to River State. But if you're from River State, I think
I'm not from River
okay,
State.
okay, that's
Let
fine. You're
that
in
just be
Nigeria.
clear. Yes, I'm in
You're
Nigeria.
Nigerian.
Yes.
But I, for one, sitting down here, I happen to have spent close to 20 years in River State. I know the politics of River State at least much, even better than my state or your state. And I can tell you for sure that not because I'm an APC person or I'm a supporter or I'm a registered member of APC, but because you see the country has to be saved. We need to have a country to have a government to run or even politics to play. And we had a very precarious situation. You may not know, and many Nigerians may not know some of the security report that was given to the president. The president is a Democrat, and of course, he's a fighter. He fought against military dictatorship rule, and he's not a promoter of either sole administration or truncating of democracy or democratic governance in any state or country. You can see even when within the 2 years he has been in power, he has been fighting for democracy, both outside Nigeria, within the neighboring West African states, and all over. And so he will not be passionate or be very visited on, truncating the will of the people, by removing either governor or declaring a state of emergency, people that were governed by the citizens. So the point is, we had a very grave situation that would have derailed the economic gain of this country. And you know how important Niger Delta, especially River State, is to the economy of this country. There were a lot of political actors within the River State, politics that took this political disagreement, into a personal fight between either some say it's Godfather versus Godson. But the point is, these people, wanted to sabotage the government, the federal government itself, and the country because of their personal disagreements and personal interests.
But
I would say,
Akim, there are some people who feel that when you look at that Section 305,
yeah.
the situation in River State has not escalated to that point, because the so-called pipeline explosion that happened, everything has been sorted out at the moment. So, I mean, some people are of the argument that this is the president trying to secure 2027.
Let me ask you, do you have to wait until you are at the point of death before you go to the hospital if you're sick?
I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But this case, so for some people, they feel it's different. Because the governor has made clear intentions to do the needful as prescribed in the verdict of the Supreme Court. So what do you say to that?
We in politics, some of us in politics, I won't say for myself, because I try to play sincere politics, what you see on camera may not be what is on ground. Like I said, the president have so many fights. Even I, for one, too, that have stayed in Port Harcourt. Some of the actors in this imbroglio were either my classmates in primary or university, one or two people I know. And somehow I have a little bit of information, that is almost like a fact. This problem, this disagreement, political brouhaha going on in the state was almost going to an ethnic fight between the Ikweris and the Ijos.
So,
unfortunately,
the governor should bear the brunt only.
No, it's not about. I'm not pointing of accusing figure on the governor, although he has a lot of blame. Because for me, I feel as a governor that was enthroned by a political family, you should be able to know how to manage that family to deliver the dividends of democracy we have in other states.
But if River State was under APC, do you think the president would have made that
Of course, I'm very sure he would do the same. He would do the same. It's not about political party. It's about the interest of the country. It was almost in disarray. The president saw it. The security report was very clear to the fact that these people are taking their fight to destroy or to caused mayhem on the economy. And of course, later on, you started seeing the sign of vandalism, and the most even the grievous situation that we would have had if the president had not intervened is that there would have been bloodletting on the street of Port Harcourt, because it was almost like a war between the two major ethnic groups in the states. God forbid we have the situation of Rwanda. So that's why I ask you, because is it not better to take care of the symptoms than to even cure yourself or look for cure when you are at the point of death?
And 6 months suspension
It's for people to rethink. Yes, it's for people to it's for
the security concerns.
Yes, it's for both parties to rethink whether their interest is more important than the interest of the state.
Now that the president has appointed a sole administrator, there are still concerns over insecurity in the state. There are still people who are ready to do.
But I can tell you right now,
if the president doesn't reinstate
you see, those people, there are people that will be sponsored to either misrepresent the sole administration, or people. See, there are actors that have lost out in this power play, so they will always want to edge their opponents, over maybe the situation, and to either curry the public favor or sympathy to themselves. So it's all politics. So when you hear threat, counter threat, or this one, of course, we even heard yesterday's the labor union gave a threat of going on strike. All these are power play. We know that even some of the problem is that we didn't have any neutrality in
labor is coming into this conversation.
They have. Let me tell you. I told you.
The reaction is unanimous.
I told you I have.
Of how people actually feel about this emergency.
I told you I have a sort of first-hand information of what is going on between the both camps. I forget about the fact that I'm an APC member. The thing is that we have a camp that it doesn't want to shift ground, or I don't think they're even interested in peace, even after the president have intervened. All of them are egocentric. They want to outdo each other. They don't care. For God's sake, even to the extent of wanting to punish the states over their political interests. Look at the disagreement over submitting or presenting a budget or not. And of course, it's there stated in the Constitution, if you don't present your budget to the House of Assembly or National Assembly, you cannot make any expenditure. You cannot execute any project. You cannot spend, because the people's power has been given to the representatives. So you have to go and get the authority to spend. So you can see all the back and forth, to the extent that the Supreme Court had to come and look, you have to go. And you see, they said if two elephants fight,
exactly. Thank God you mentioned two elephants. Is the president oblivious to the fact that the minister of the FCT is also a major factor in this political crisis?
You see, when people mention
and the president, with his close relationship with the minister, many people would believe that if the president truly wanted this crisis to be resolved, because the minister is directly under him, he would have, pressured him to allow for the governor to have full control over the affairs of the state.
So I don't think it's about control. It's about understanding each other. It's about mutual respect. It's about to the political environment. Say it's about having that executive, or let me say, staying put to the agreements, if you might put it that way. Even if you want to, disagree with the agreement you've had with your political structure or political godfather, there are ways to go about it. Like I'm not totally against Fubara, or neither am I supporting, because Wike is not even a member of my party.
We are not talking about Fubara now. We're talking about the president.
Yes, I'm going back to Wike.
And his impact on the minister.
I'm going back to Wike now. Wike is the minister in the matter we are discussing right now.
Yes.
I think the fight, based on the various court proceedings and the drama in the court, is between the House of Assembly and the governor. Those are the two institutions fighting, or let me say, having the back and forth. And they had to go to court. You see, my happiness, I always say, is that, thank God, these two institutions, used, obey, or respected our institutions, legal institutions, to go to court instead of resorting to self-help in the first place. You see, it's after they have exhausted the court proceedings or the legal processes that they now maybe want to start causing mayhem, which the president intervenes. Now, the Wike aspect. Wike is not a party. He is an influential. He's a godfather, in quote, to maybe both parties. Or let's say is very influential to the House of Assembly. But when the president, based on my understanding, called for political solution, I think sometime in December 2023, the agreement they signed, the peace agreement they signed, was between the House of Assembly and the governor. Would they say, okay, both of you go and withdraw your cases, go and restate people.
But is it really between the House of Assembly and the governor? Given the minister's public outbursts all the time.
See, you're a father, all right, to a son, and your son have disagreement with me, all right? We went to court. The fight is not between me and you. Yes, you can, as a father, you can influence him. So, but I cannot attribute whatever I have between your son to you. That is the mistake people, don't try to understand. So the thing is that, look, yes, Wike is a factor. But the point is, he is not a legal entity within the imbroglio they are currently having or they had. So Wike can be talked to, or they can have that. Okay, why not Fubara, as a governor, as a political mentor that he seems to try to be, have an understanding with his godfather or with his mentor who sacrificed to make sure he's governor. Why can't he just, even for God's sake, look at Lagos State. The current governor is a mentee to the current president. Are you seeing any fight between him and the governor? For God, respect the people that brought you into power.
At the detriment of the interests of the people.
And you see,
are you aware that there are allegations of allegedly that monies from the state, from the coffers of the state government, should be remitted?
But I watch Wike denying it on TV.
No, that's fine. That's why I said allegedly.
He denied it.
When something is alleged, it raises concerns. It might not be true, but it's a concern. Yeah. So are you wary of this concern for the sake of the people of Rivers State?
But you see, like Wike always said, I'm not a spokesperson to Wike, but I've watched him many times say, look, I have my own budget as FCT minister, passed by the National Assembly. So why should I be delving into my state? I cannot carry the FCT state budget to go and give Rivers State. He said those things. And I think we should have a sense of trust, even though some of us may disagree with him. But the point is, see, there are ways, there is no country, there is no state, you will not have a mentor or let's say a godfather. Even in American politics or democracy that we are copying, there are families that that once you get close to them, or maybe you want a political ambition, with their help, with their name, they come. Look at Trump today.
So you feel godfatherism is good for Nigeria's politics?
Even God is our godfather.
When you look at the history of politics in Nigeria, would you say godfatherism has?
You must have to step on somebody to get to the top. You must climb on somebody. You can't destroy the ladder that brought you.
Helping somebody to climb to the top should not necessarily be godfatherism.
Well, you can call it all kinds of names. You can call it mentorship. Some people call it mentorship. Some people call it what they call it, coach,
in the Nigerian
or whatever.
context, don't you feel it's about control?
It's not about control, except the way you see it.
If it's not about control, why is the FCT minister so hell-bent on Fubara's case?
For God's sake. See, like I said, most of the information that you have, I have it, and I watch it on TV when both parties give interviews or, So Wike said, look, it's not about control or whether the resources of the state. It's about leaving the structure that brought you. Allow me to take care of the focus on your government.
Who owns the structure? The party or an individual?
There must be a leader. There must be a leader.
Is Wike the leader of PDP?
Is Wike,
APC?
whether anybody likes it or not, even if we might not like Wike's face,
Is
he
this
is the
about
leader.
party leadership or about sole leadership?
That's why you
over
cannot
the affairs
isolate
of a state.
That's why you cannot isolate politics from governance. It's pari passu, they go hand in hand.
So
if you don't play the right politics, you will end up having a bad governance or government. You run a bad government because you have a lot of
for both leaders, for me, how does it benefit the people?
For me,
because right now the democratic process has been interrupted. Yes, the president has the provision to do that according to Section 305. But the major problem now is that the requirements have not been fully met. Now, let's move away from the president now to also the role of the National Assembly, which is why people like Peter Obi, I think on Monday, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, says everything has been knocked down in Nigeria and nothing works as far as this country's democracy is concerned. He went on to say the judiciary has been compromised and judgments are now being handed down based on who knows who. He also criticized the suspension of Fubara and the declaration of an emergency rule by the president. Now, let's have a listen to what he said.
Let me follow my brother when he said about 1999. If you look at where we are today, it's like they started in 1999, laid the foundation. Some people came and took it a decking, and some people were trying to raise it to first floor, and some people came and knocked everything down. That's the situation where we are now. Everything has been knocked down. Nothing works. And I'm somebody who can say this exemplarily. I became a governor to the court when President Obasanjo and Atiku were government. I did not pay the court 1 naira. I was sitting in my house in the office, and the court declared me winner. When a governor is not student, it can happen in Nigeria today. When I was being impeached, the president sent people to come and intervene on my behalf. Ken Namani came begging house people not to impeach me. Today, the president impeaches the person. So that is the thing that collapse. They were begging my house not to impeach me. And they were PDP. I was in anger. And they were begging. President was calling me and said, Peter, are you okay? Well, even when I was impeached, President Obasanjo called me and said, are you okay? Are you safe? When I go back from the court, when court eventually declared me under Anduba, President Yaradua called my phone in London and said, congrats. I said, President, I can't come back because, if I come back, these people, he said, tell me the flight in which you're coming back. And I told him, when I came in the first time, military people came to receive me at the airport.
All right. So, I mean, I know the president has reacted. Onanuga said democracy has grown stronger over the past 26 years. And he said for the fact that Peter Obi is able to express his views, it means that democracy has not collapsed. So now, what are your thoughts on some of the thoughts that...
What do you expect from Peter Obi? You don't expect any... maybe
you feel this is just opposition politics?
Yeah, it's politics. Okay, we know what we're in this terrain. You don't even if your opponent put food in your mouth, you will find a way to demarcate that food. Either it's not sweet or it's not cooked well. So it's part of politics. So all the thing he's saying is part of trying to navigate towards 2027. And of course, licking their wounds from their defeat in 2023. So I really don't take them serious, But it's the aspect of whether there's the National Assembly follow the Constitution or not. Of course, it's spelled out in Section 305, the procedures. And for God's sake, everybody is a witness to what happened.
Voice vote.
You
are okay with the
we cannot dictate to the National Assembly how they carry out their House proceedings. They have their rules. So if they say, if there's unanimous voice votes and it carries the date, we cannot change it.
But they are actually changing it because the same rule said 2/3.
2/3.
So how does voice votes, trample down on
Did you hear any nay?
two-thirds?
Did you hear any nay during the voting? There was no nay. It was unanimous. So I think we should focus.
While majority of the lawmakers were absent in plenary that particular
choose
day.
to be absent. It was announced that, of course, I'm not in the Senate
some of the
or House of
lawmakers,
Rep.
I'm aware of Senator Ireti, who tried to raise the concern that at least a head count should be done. You want to do voice vote. But who are the people? The number of people doing the voice votes.
But you see,
it's not a concern
the most important
to you. It's not a concern to you at all.
No. The most important thing is that is Rivers State better off than what it is about 2 weeks ago?
Would you say that the National Assembly under this particular administration is rubber stamp?
Well, he can call it anything.
What do you call it?
What do you call it? In US, where we have Republican as the president, Republican as majority in the Senate and House of Rep, and they are doing the bidding of Trump. Everything Trump gives to them or pass to them, it is passed unanimously. So, are you saying it's a rubber stamp? This is democracy. Do you want our APC lawmakers to be fighting an APC president? No, it's not. It's not even done in any part of the world.
Okay, now let me ask you this question: is it everything that the president decides to do that is good for the
That is why you see the parties needs to be strong. They need to have unity of purpose.
Now, it's not
so that you can capture, you can have majority. Because if you don't have majority,
it's not about saying everything the president does is wrong, but it's about checkmating the executive function of the National Assembly to challenge the president. Now, you would expect, if there was sort of a challenge for lawmakers to say, okay, yes, we understand the security concerns. For the sake of the concerns of a democracy, can we at least have 2 months and see if we can reduce the tension?
Your prayers or your thoughts was actually captured by the National Assembly. If you look at their resolution,
it scales through. What was the resolution?
No. Their resolution is that within the 6 months, if both parties come to an agreement, come to an understanding, if their ego, they bring down their ego and think about the welfare of Rivers people, which is the reason the Mr. President took this decision in the first place. Number one, for security purposes, peace and law and order in Rivers State. 2, economic reasons, because this administration has been doing well so far to boost our oil production from about 1.1 million to about 1.6 million barrel per day. And because of personal interest, political interest of few individuals, and you want to scuttle this progress, because we have bills to pay, for God's sake. We have budget to execute. We have international obligations and the rest of them. So we cannot allow Fubara and Wike or Amewule or whatever to come and derail the economic progress, because whether we like it or not, oil is still important in the economic state of this country.
So let's agree that Peter Obi is just playing opposition politics. Now let's go to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who said that democracy is not about grabbing power and telling the victims to go to court knowing that they won't get justice. He's saying that democracy has failed in Africa, arguing that it's not delivering the dividends to the continent. And according to Obasanjo, before the advent of colonial rule, Africa had its governance system, which he argued served the people better. He, however, faulted the current system in the continent, which the former president says has empowered leaders to grab everything illegally and corruptly and ask the people to go to court. Let's have a listen to what the former president had to say.
Are we talking of democracy? Or are we talking of Western liberal democracy? I will not preempt what Bishop Kuka will be saying. But when we talk of democracy, we should remember that in Africa, before the colonial rule and the colonial power, we have a form of government which attended to the needs of our people. And whatever you call it, to me, it is democracy. Because what is democracy about? The American President Abraham Lincoln defined it as government of the people, by the people, for the people. Democracy is meant to be a system of government that delivers, and delivers to all the people, not just a section of the people, not just a few. But what do we have today? I believe since we gone past the Greek democracy, which brought everybody to the square, and everybody has a say in the decision making, which affects everybody, or which affected everybody. Democracy has now become representative democracy. And representative democracy has not taken care of everybody.
Now, okay, so this is Obasanjo now. Is he still playing opposition politics? Is that what it is to you?
But you see, the thing is that when Obasanjo, I have a
Do
lot
you
of
think at the
respect.
level that Obasanjo is, he has time for all of these games?
You see, I have a lot of respect for Obasanjo. I
Okay.
respect him. So I admire him as one of maybe the most effective president we've had in this Fourth Republic. You know, so but be it as it may, you know, when you are not in the system, you are not in the system. You always want to either cast aspersion.
But for someone who has ruled this nation
For God's sake,
8
there were,
years,
you know, 8
he
years.
doesn't have
when
a
he was
clue
when
of
he
what
was
is going on in this current
when he
system.
when he was in government, we had, is it about 3 members of House of Assembly impeaching the governor? We had a governor being kidnapped or adopted from government house. We had, you know, EFCC coercing members of the House of Assembly to remove a governor. We even heard about third term and all that. So, for God's sake, you see, the thing is that when people are out of power, they always feel that absence, and so they always want to make themselves relevant. He's a very patriotic Nigerian. He's our father, and he has paid his dues for Nigeria, both during the Civil War and as president. But you see, he also made a lot of mistakes. So it cannot be, will I say, how did I say it in English? You know, always wanting to point an accusing finger and refusing to remove the peg in your own eyes. So if I were him, there are some times I don't even have to say anything, because there were a lot of emergency rules during his time. There was emergency rule in Plateau, in Ekiti. Have you forgotten? So what was he talking about? There were a lot of election that was cancelled by the Supreme Court and even the Appeal Court. You remember the case of Edo State, when Professor Sumbo was sworn in, and the court said it was Oshomole that won.
Would you say
So
that?
So you cannot.
Would you say that this concerns being raised about democracy is more rampant in this administration?
It's because a lot of people have lost out. Just look at El-Rufai. El-Rufai is one of our, let's say, one of our selling point or assets in the party. But because he allowed his deficiency to take, you know, over his emotions, and he decided to leave the party. So he's not criticizing the government that he supported.
Do you feel it's a big loss for your party?
It's not a big loss. And I can tell you, mark my words, by all things being equal, God giving us life, 2027 is a cruise for us.
Do you think it's a coincidence that this emergency rule in Rivers is happening at the same time, you know, El-Rufai pulled out? Because there are political pundits, not me now, but people who says that the grand scheme of things is that El-Rufai is probably going to pull a lot of Northerners away from the party, and hence the need to solidify base. And what happened?
Now,
in
let me
Rivers
ask you a
played out.
question. Let me ask you a question. Have you not seen El-Rufai begging a lot of big wigs in APC to join him? How many of them have joined him? They don't want to go to political oblivion like
But there
like
is still
him,
time for
because
that
it's
to
an
happen.
attempt to political oblivion. We know what I mean by political oblivion. It's like extinguishing yourself from politics and retiring yourself untimely. That is what Erufai is trying to do. Because if I were him, I would say in APC, fight the cause, be a loyal party man, advise the government secretly and in-house, like some of us do. Some of the steps the government are taking, let me say some, few, we kind of have concerns. We go through our, in-house mechanism to reach out to the people in power, and sometimes they adjust. Sometimes they explain why it is like that. But when somebody have political ulterior motives, trying to gallivant around, try to, wanting to check whether it's popular or not. I want to join to the next ship, and begin to abuse the house that you jointly built. I, for one, I'm a party man. I joined APC from inception. So we have built this house together. Even though some of us are not ministers, all of us cannot be ministers, all of us cannot be governors, but we are party men. So we have to support the government in the areas that they do well. In the areas they are not doing so well, we give them helping hand by advising them and reaching out to them intellectually.
Now, one more question before we move to the next topic of conversation. Would you say that the crisis in Borno State does not call for a state of emergency? Because that's another talking point of people who clearly don't agree with the president on this decision. You also look at the Osun State. It's on record that the AGF has said that if states don't do the needful, what happened in Rivers could be their lot. So should we be concerned for Osun State?
No, you see,
because people have died in those places also.
You see, what is happening in Osun is a different ballgame from what is happening in Rivers State. You see, the governor and the House of Assembly enmeshed themselves into the controversy that was almost leading to blood letting on the street of Port Harcourt, and economic sabotage. The president had to take that, proactive measures. But for Osun State, it's just a political difference in which is maybe local government election. That has no warrant.
But that election has claimed lives, you're aware.
But the
security situation in Borno State and other states in the northeast have also claimed lives.
Supreme Court gave judgment for local government chairman to be reinstated, which they have gone back to their office. Even though the governor disagreed and said, okay, his own people should not go. See, that's the difference. Don't go to the local government headquarters to fight anybody. You can stay in your hotel and do whatever you want to do. But the problem is, even the nexus of the matter is that if this country has to go forward, has to grow, both economically, politically, or if the country has to be stabilized, because you need political stability for foreign investors, even business to thrive, is for the politician adhering to the rule of law, obeying whether we like it or not. Suppose, just like our the Labour Party candidate, said that the judgment is now for who. I mean, it shouldn't come from an elder statement. He was a former governor. He also benefited from the courts. You see, the same people that castigate the courts are the ones that will still go to the same court. Look at the case of, I'm sorry to bring this, Natasha.
We're coming to Natasha. Let's just dive in.
You allege a scandal. You didn't allow the process to go through. You have a standing committee in the Senate, and you even took the matter to court. You have not allowed the court to adjudicate. Even the standing committee to preside. You have already gone to international community to go and black. You are not blackmailing. In fact, I feel she's blackmailing herself because nobody's taking her serious. I watched one of the interviews.
You are aware that it was after that interview that she was suspended. Why suspend if you've not given her the opportunity? I mean, why suspend her? Why not? Before suspending, why don't you preside over her petition before suspension?
The problem is that, you see...
Because one of the cases raised by the person that brought her petition at the public hearing yesterday was the fact that, she can't be allowed into the National Assembly as it stands now. So how is that a fair hearing? We're not talking about the allegations now. We're talking about fair hearing. How is it fair hearing?
No, you see, you have a representative. You know, she has a lawyer, that represented her. Which what other fairness do you want? If you go to a law court or a proceeding, if you can't be there in person, you send your lawyer, and that's also recognized by the law. But what I'm trying to say is that we should learn how to comport ourselves within the ambit of the law. Because we can't run a banana republic. You can't say because maybe you are a beautiful woman or you're a senator or a former president, you just talk down on the country, you talk down on the judiciary, then the same judiciary, you go and be praying for them to give you judgment. Then if you don't believe in the country, you can go to ICC and maybe America and get a judgment. Of course, it's not binding to Nigeria. So these are some of the things to be telling our politicians, the likes of Natasha. Allow the courts to go through your petition before you go to a BBC or go to Sky News or CNN, because nobody will take you serious. So we should learn how to operate within the ambit of the law, because there's constitution. Nigeria is a constituted entity that has a constitution. So if we all abide by it, if the Fubara of this world, the Wike, you see, one thing I can respect Wike for is that Wike, all his fight has always been through the law courts. He has never either mobilized youth and say, get ready, we are going to give you signal to go and
you mentioned
bomb
Wike,
pipeline.
but there are a lot of people who are very concerned, especially now that you mentioned Wike. This is the same minister that built houses for judges. Tell me, how do you change that? I know public perception does not really matter, because just like what you're saying is what the former president said, that go to the courts, go to the courts. But most people are not confident in the court.
Then where do you go?
Where do you go? You should be the one to answer the question.
No, where do you go?
Because it's your party that seems confident about the judiciary system in the country. Now, you mentioned Wike giving that precedent of buying houses for judges, and the same president who has increased salaries of judges to 300%. Tell me, where is the confidence from those who are outside your party that the courts will stand for them?
Okay, let me ask you two questions. The money that Wike, in quote, is using to build houses or residence for judges, is his personal money? It's government money. And what's the essence of government? A welfare, security and welfare of the citizens. The judges, are they not citizens of this country? For God's sake, have you met some judges of late?
I'm not arguing against that. I'm just I'm just telling you about the concerns of why some people do not have faith in the justice system in the country.
My brother, look.
Can you at least see that?
My brother, see, I have seen some judges that I, as a private citizen of this country, is better off. Because some of them don't even have working tools. Imagine a law court that even the judges will tell you, go and type the proceedings and bring. That was how bad it is. That's why you see politicians can easily manipulate the system when the system is not being taken care of. Aside Lagos, maybe Port Harcourt, because of Wike as a governor, most go to so many states in Nigeria. Either the judges, some of even the magistrates are on bike, Okada, going to work. Some of us in the private sector even earn more than them. And you think they will not be compromised? And now they will have a president that is thinking about their welfare, thinking about making them, have either job security or at least a good welfare. Salary-wise.
That is not the problem.
No, but
Akim, that is not the problem. But the question now
Nigerians
is, if there is a case against the same government that has done all this for them, should people not be concerned?
Is it not their entitlement to be taken care of? Is it not their entitlement?
It is their entitlement.
Yes.
But we're still arguing the issue of minimum wage. So if you want us to go there, we'll go there. 300% increment for judges. Are judges more special than other Nigerian workers?
You see, judges are not civil servants. They are public servants. There is, in the public service, to say, there are public servants and civil servants. Civil servants are more of clerical, administrative, while public servants are those people that are almost like, whether you like it or not, even judges, they are sort of a political appointment because they have to be appointed either by the governor or by the president through after selection from the NJC, whatever, through their procedures. So you cannot give them the same salary like a civil servant. You have to take care of them. Just like governors, they have security votes. They pay themselves huge amounts. They don't want people to question them of contracts, being awarded fictitiously. You see them doing augmentation, variation. They do things at will. And a judge, and you have a judge that cannot even pay his children's school fees or even have a roof over his head. So those are the things.
That is not my case. My case is
I'm just giving you reasons why you see the government have to take care of their welfare. Now, people are saying, because the government wants to get favorable. It's not.
So it's not a valid concern.
If you check
what you're trying to say is that it's not a valid concern. People should not have that concern.
For God's sake.
That the judiciary can be compromised.
Of course, it has been compromised even before this government. PDP, the other, even like I told you, when P2B was reinstated by the Supreme Court, do we Nigerians say he compromised the same Nigerian judiciary? That's about 15 years ago. This he benefited, and now because the judgment is not favoring, we are now abusing our judges and judiciary. For God's sake, we should have.
All right, Aki. Because of time, let's quickly delve into proper this issue of Natasha, especially with the regards of alleged hearing in the Senate. Now, we've heard from some of the key stakeholders who were at the hearing. But I want us to start with the issue of recall. I'd like to know your take, even though I know you're not from Kogi State. But the Independent National Electoral Commission has raised concerns over the petition of the recall of the suspended senator representing Kogi Central. Now, in a statement signed by its National Commissioner and Chairman, Information Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun, acknowledged receiving the petition, including 6 bags of documents that are said to contain signatures of more than half of 470,000 registered voters. However, INEC has pointed out that the petitions failed to provide the necessary contact information, such as their addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses, as required under the Commission's regulations and guidelines for recall in 2024. Then also the issue of bias. Of course, we talked about briefly the drama that unfolded during the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions hearing on sexual harassment petition against the Senate President, Mr. Zuberi Yakubu, who represented the suspended senator, accused the committee of bias and lack of fair hearing. Now, he said initially refused to speak unless Senator Natasha, his principal witness, was allowed to enter the National Assembly, and he appeared before the committee chaired by Senator Nada Imasheon from Edo South alongside his counsel Abiola Kiyode and former Minister of Education Obi Ezekwesili. Now, following the heated exchanges and accusations that Senator Imasheon had prejudged the case by declaring the petition dead on arrival, he dismissed the petition. So let's not go into the drama that occurred between the Ebonyi senator, and that's not of consequence to the conversation. So alleged bias. Now, that is coming based on the judgment, because there is a judgment. Now, let us wait for the court case. And then, so what was the point of having this hearing in the first place, if we are waiting for the court case?
Of course, it's to follow their guidelines. Once you submit a petition, you give the parties an opportunity for hearing. And once the hearing, was concluded, there was a reminder that the case is in court. So it cannot just, the Senate cannot just post a statement and say, oh, the matter is in court, so we are not going to have any hearing. So it's better bring the parties together and say, this is the reason why we cannot proceed. And that is actually what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, there were drama. I think it's uncalled for, because these two people, they are statesmen, statesman and stateswoman, because we have a former education minister,
Yeah.
and they call her Madame Due Process, So for her to descend to that level, honestly, it's really, really not
Well, are you just saying it was only her that descended to that
no,
level?
even the senator himself, I think
Because he was going on.
He allowed emotion.
He was just
because
going on
we're
and on
human
and
being,
on.
for God's sake. If somebody, they say action began reaction.
Of course.
So we should comport ourselves, especially when we have officers of the country, both at the Senate, somebody who's a current senator and a former minister. For God's sake, we should be able to have an exemplary interaction or deliberation from people who either have held or are holding public office. So it's really an embarrassment, honestly, because I know Dr. Obi in person. I've had interaction with her. In time past, I know she's a cool-headed woman who's a go-getter, a woman who's very.
Because I was watching her interview, last night, and she made mention of the fact that the reason why she actually asked the senator to shut his mouth up was because initially they were not allowed to speak. And then him, who is on the side of the Senate president, was speaking. So that felt like it was uncalled for him to speak if they are not given the opportunity to speak. And then things went out of hand. So does that not point to bias?
Whatever drama that have happened, I don't think it warranted the kind of optics we saw yesterday from the Senate. Like I said, the Senate is an institution respected all over the world. So we shouldn't be having a kind of, dishonorable conduct from both parties. So I for one, if I were in your shoe, if they refuse me to speak, is to carry my bag and bag it down.
But she's there to speak for someone else.
If somebody deny you to speak, you leave them to.
So, but now looking at this,
instead of
descending
to more of a kindergarten drama, it doesn't really go.
So there was the issue that the Senate president should have been there, and Natasha should have been there. So based on what happened yesterday, was it right for the Senate committee to just say this is dead on arrival?
No, I listened to the Chairman's ethics and privileges. What he said was about the initial petition that was written that the distinguished Senator Natasha signed by herself and by Senate procedure.
But she submitted another one.
No, he was making reference because that is the allegation the Natasha party came with. That look, you said our petition is dead on. He said no. What I was referring to was the one earlier submitted in my statement. It's that one because she did not follow the procedure, of submitting a petition. You cannot sign your own petition. You have to have people from your constituents or some other party sign on your behalf. So that was why he said it's dead on arrival. If it was dead on arrival, they're not going to have the session they had yesterday.
So what about the one that she brought?
The one that she brought was
it was not looked into. You're waiting for the courts to
yes,
speak.
Definitely. It's also part of Senate rules, both Senate and House of Rep. Any matter is there is as a standing rule. Over the years, both at the 10th, 9th, and whatever 8th Senate or whatever, there is a standing rule because the institution must respect each other.
Now let's
the judiciary has to respect the National Assembly has to also respect the role of the judiciary. So they wouldn't want to interfere in the judicial procedures.
Okay, now let's go to the judiciary now. This supposed judge who is supposed to preside over the matter has recused himself. And that is also sending out signals because, there's this issue of bias being put forward by Akpabio's side, and he had to recuse himself. So, I mean, that says a lot about, I mean, him not wanting to be a party to a case where he will be seen as someone that's biased. So from the looks of things, this case is probably going to stall in court. And you also see the fate of her constituents that are also trying to recall her, but the initial effort now is dead on arrival, according to INEC.
I don't think it's dead on arrival. They just made an observation which cannot be corrected. They said the right phone number, verified phone number, email, and what again? I've forgotten the third one. Just something that they can easily do. They can go back if they are serious to do the needful. It's just phone numbers and email address. And of course, also the voters. Some of them may not even have these phone numbers, or even. I think that's an expo I should be giving to.
Do you think this recall will pull through?
Well, if the parties are serious. I'm not a Kogite from Kogi State, so but I just feel as a senator, you should be able to observe the decorum. You are not an SUG representatives or politicians.
Are you speaking about Natasha?
I'm just advising her. Understand? If she's listening or people are listening right now, of course, I heard she's 45 or so. She's the mother, and you're a senator. You are not an activist. There's a life.
So this is activism for you.
Some people.
We are not in her mind, so we cannot. Are you not downplaying some of the allegations that she's playing by just what you're saying?
Like I said,
because she has not really been given full room to prove herself.
She has not provided evidence. Well, maybe she has, or maybe along the line she may have. I'm not also here to defend Akpabio, but I'm just saying that, look, not because you lost
Senate committee,
juicy committee, because I know that committee is very juicy, then seats
position
arrangement, then you now remember somebody sexually assaulted you or harassed you some months back. For God's sake, for me, if I were in her shoe, I think I will look for other excuses.
Finally, before we go, what's the way forward? Because, I mean, this is just getting out of hand. And the brand of the Senate, even though the Ebonyi senator yesterday said he doesn't feel the brand of the Senate in Nigeria is tarnished.
Well,
is that how you see it?
No, I just feel the
fact that it's in the international media.
The actors are not looking at the interest of the country. They are looking at for me, it's just personal interest. I just mentioned the reasons I feel, of course, not really I feel, it's the reason why she actually brought out the allegation. She lost her seats, sitting arrangement. She lost committee chairmanship and decided to come out to rubbish. For me, you are even rubbishing the country. And for God's sake, the interest of the country should supersede your personal interest.
Even if what she's saying is true.
That's whether what you're saying is true. There are ways and
she should shoulder
and for me, if I were her, she should also respect the institutions we have. We have institutions. Even the senator, she
at the detriment of her mental health. At the detriment of the plight of her constituency.
Okay, how else do you get justice if you don't go through the institutions that have been set up to give you justice? The Senate committees, standing committees, or the courts. The courts, okay, even for God's sake, I will even question the rationale for how to even go around the world, because she has gone around to the world to allege this matter. For God's sake, you went through the courts to win your seats.
Suspension.
No, you went through the courts to win your seats. Actually, she was not the one declared winner.
Yeah, I'm aware.
She went through the court and I think up to Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken, and she won her seat. Why not have faith in that same judiciary to adjudicate on your case, and maybe you might be vindicated. Provide the evidences. You took your time to provide evidences that you were rigged out, or you were wrongfully announced loser of the last senatorial election in 2023 in is it Kogi Central also? then you should be able to you are a law, you're an officer of the law.
They are both
not only
lawyers.
yes, and that is the irony of the matter. So you should, for me, I'm not like saying supporting Akpabio, but the point is, we must respect the institution set up for adjudication of the law, the courts.
All right, Sir Akim, our time is almost up. Thank you so much
you.
for sharing your thoughts with
Thank
us.
you so much.
And we hope the next time we want you here in the studio,
I'm available.
it will be...
By the grace of God.
All right, folks at home, thank you so much for watching the show today. That's the much that we can take. And we'll see you same time right here on LN 24/7. Many thanks for watching.